with me in the studio is Tebogo Mogashoa. Tebogo, welcome.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. So you can best be described as a serial entrepreneur. You grew up in Orlando.
Yes.
You went to WITS, 1996. You qualify as an engineer with a speciality in the telecommunications field. And when you qualify, very bravely, I think, you decide you're not going to follow the route of everybody going out there looking for a job. You're young, you're brash, full of confidence, and you start your own consulting business.
Indeed, that was it, yeah.
So you do that, it goes quite well. You then move on into a whole host of other businesses. Perhaps you can just tell us how that came about. You built up some capital, and what else you went into and why.
Well, Mark, it was a very organic process for me, starting in consulting engineering at a time when consulting engineering wasn't really open to young black engineers. I entered the market at a time when the country was going through a change. You know, this is 97. If you think of 97, you think of the beginning of BEE, democracy, a whole new market, a whole new wave of growth and prosperity. So I thought it was a good idea to jump on that bandwagon and see what I could do to contribute to this economy.
Today, if we look at people today coming out of matric, very few with maths, very few with science, and so few graduates in the engineering field. Don't you think that's a big hole, something that we have a shortage of in South Africa?
Yes, we do have that shortage, but we also could channel those that don't have those particular skills into vocational training, like they do in Germany.
Yeah.
Not everybody's got a degree in Germany. You've got lots of mechanics and plumbers and electricians that are exceptionally good. And through recognition of prior learning, down the line, they become recognized as professionals in their own industries. Therefore, I think we must produce as much engineers as we can produce. If we cannot produce enough of them, then we must convert others into artisans, but develop them to become the best artisans in the world.
But we're not doing it at the moment.
Well, it's a work in progress.
Yeah.
I think it's an area which can be improved, and it's certainly something that does need to be done.
So you have the consulting business, it does quite well. You build up a reasonable balance sheet, and then you decide to go into businesses, which for me are totally unrelated to where you come from. You go into fleet management, you go into funding other businesses, and you do all sorts of other things. Was that just opportunistic, planned? How did that come about?
Well, I can't say it was planned. Business for me is a science and an art. But the art comes before the science in the sense that there's a requirement for creativity in business. In other words, to think things through, to conceptualize them and to visualize them. And of course, to respond to opportunities as they present themselves. So as you say, I'm involved in many unrelated businesses. That came about as a result of responding to opportunities that presented themselves at a particular point in time when I was involved in the consulting engineering business. I built enough of a balance sheet to grow into commercial property. And from commercial property, I got into finance, funding SMMEs, providing working capital finance solutions for SMMEs that participate in supplier development programs of corporates, as well as suppliers that are providing services into the state-owned enterprises industry. So that has been a journey for me.
Okay, so those were very business-focused kind of businesses, for want of a better word.
Yeah.
And then a few years ago, you decide, well, now you're going to get into the game ranching business, and you have a farm in Limpopo where you're doing buffalo and all other
sable
kinds of
and roan.
Sable and roan. And you'd also become the vice president of the National Wildlife Ranching Organization.
Yes.
So why wildlife? And is it lucrative? Is it a passion?
Well, it's a passion. and a business. And most of all, it's renewable. It's a renewable resource in that the breeding allows for expansion of a business in a coordinated manner, and is also enshrined in our Bill of Rights in the Constitution under the Sustainable Utilization Policy of our government. The ability to own private wildlife is something that is special about South Africa compared to the rest of the world. You know, Mark, in other parts of the world, people are not capable of owning wildlife. It belongs to the state.
But you don't own wildlife so that you can go and pet the buffalo.
Yes.
This is, as you say, it's sustainable, so you breed them, you sell them.
You breed them, you sell them. There's utilization for them. There's ecotourism. Some people love to just come and see them. They take photos of them. And there's, of course, other industries where they are consumed through hunting and so on. I don't necessarily do hunting.
I've got a much better idea.
Yeah.
Instead of people coming to South Africa to take pictures of wildlife, why don't you let them take pictures of your beautiful wife? That could also be lucrative.
That would cost them an arm and a leg.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So now you have the wildlife, and then you're going to all things, agriculture. You decided not to go and buy a wine farm, which I think is a recipe to lose money, but you go and farm table grapes for local and export.
Indeed. I mean, I farm grapes in the way that they should be farmed. In that, I mean, table grapes is a commodity that's consumed worldwide. And South Africa is best positioned in the sense that we are one of 6 countries that produce table grapes at a particular time of year that no other country produces. We've got a window that we slot into the global supply chain of table grapes, and that gives us a competitive advantage. And that is really a function of weather more than anything.
I can see that you are very focused on finding the opportunities, like you've just described with the grapes, but you have all these varied businesses. And how do you run them? You obviously have to have highly skilled people operating each business.
Indeed, Mark. I mean, I'm as successful as my team. I've got great support of professionals and capable people in the office that run each and every one of the companies within the group. And, they are passionate, they are skilled, and most of all, they are accountable. And all I do is really just to provide guidance and perhaps the creativity to identify the next opportunities along this journey.
So you don't really have a job?
I don't really have a job. You're right. I mean, this whole term of entrepreneur is actually a name which I can't really identify with, because an entrepreneur is somebody who doesn't have a job. I'd like to think of myself as a deal maker.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think what you do, and is you identify the opportunity, you find the right people,
yes.
You have a treasury that looking after money and allocating capital to the various businesses on an as-need basis.
Yes.
And you watch how they grow, and you think about the next one.
Indeed, that's my job.
So what's next for you?
Mineral beneficiation. I think that it's about time that as South Africans, we add value to the natural resources of our country.
That we export.
And then through mineral beneficiation, we'd be able to respond to the challenge of job creation, as well as diversifying our economy by earning much needed forex to support our currency, as well as to build, a better life for all.
So how many people does your entire organization employ?
Today, we are about 150 people.
Okay, that's good, including the farms and everything.
Well, the farms is more.
Yeah,
I'm talking head office. Head office. The farms, with the farms, it gets into hundreds of people.
And if you had your life over, just graduating from Wits, is there anything you would have done differently?
You know what, Mark? I don't want to sound cliche, but I wouldn't change much about my life. I think I feel like I've been blessed to have the life that I've had. In the short time that I've had in business, I've made some mistakes, but not enough to regret. I don't live in regrets at all.
And along the journey, the various places, have you had the benefit of mentors?
Indeed, I have. I mean, the space for mentorship is important in business. In fact, you know, in business, I believe you need to know what you know, and you also need to know what you don't know. And mentorship accounts for the space that you don't know. That's where you need advice and mentorship.
And sometimes it's just a sounding board.
Sometimes it's a sounding board, indeed.
And certainly you can benefit from learning from others. So it certainly played a role in my success, and I'm certain in yours.
It has.
In fact, we both deal with one guy who's a mentor to both of us, I think.
Indeed.
Hobbies, what do you do to relax?
Mountain biking. I feel...
That's why you look like you do.
Well, yeah, that's also good genes as well. That allows. Good genes and mountain biking helps to keep one in check. But certainly, I think from a mental relaxation point of view, I find myself most relaxed on a mountain bike, even though it's such a daunting thought to go up a mountain in a bicycle.
Your family, you have this gorgeous wife who I've met. I've had the pleasure of meeting.
Yes.
Psychologist. She's committed to charity work, to philanthropy. You give back through her. Your son is almost ready. He's going to be matriculated soon. Is he going to come into your business?
Well, I'm going to leave that to him to decide. I'll really just support what he wants to do in life. He's more of a creative guy, whereas I'm more of a logical guy. So, I mean, he'll decide. He's much cleverer than me.
Most of our children are. They've got the benefit of our experience, although if they ask for advice, they seldom take it.
You know how it goes.
I do know how it goes. So if I had to say to you, to people out there who want to get into business, in any form of business, where should they start? What advice would you give them?
Well, I would give them the advice in the following terms, that I think they've got to be adaptable to change, because the economy moves all the time. The circumstances and legislation changes all the time. So they've got to be adaptable to change, and also to place importance on relationships. You know, relationships is everything in business. In my life, certainly relationships have accounted for most of my success in business. And I would advise them to just keep an eye on those two aspects of business: adaptability and relationship.
And people.
And people.
People. Whatever business you're in, it always comes down to people.
Absolutely.
Tebogo, it's been an absolute pleasure having you here. But before I let you go, the real reason you're here wasn't to talk about you or your wife. What we want to know, we did. Yes. But now we put you in the hot seat, and we say to you, for the benefit of all the people out there who need mentorship, who need someone like you to give them the guidance, the advice, the benefits that you had from some people going through, how many hours of your time are you going to give me?
Well, Mark, I'll give you the biblical number of 40 hours.
40 hours.
You know the significance of 40?
I don't know.
If you read mostly in any religious text, they like to talk of the number 40. So I'll give you 40 hours. 40
hours I'll take. When I was in the army, we used to worry about 40 days because that's how long we had to go to before we got out.
There you go. There's something about this number 40, depending on what text you read. So I think 40 hours is maybe what one needs to get to
40
to
hours is fantastic, and I thank you for it.
Yeah.
But before we move on, have you got somebody that you know, either in the same kind of businesses that you're in or somewhere else, who you think would make a good mentor?
Yes, I think I would like to challenge Brad Kark.
Brad, okay, I know Brad.
You might know of Brad. I think Brad is a serial entrepreneur. He's involved in a number of successful businesses
and property.
And I think he's a good guy that could lend some lessons to a mentee.
No, I think that would be very good. Thank you for that. Our production team will challenge him, and we'll see if we can get more than the biblical 40 hours out of him. Make you look a little bit bad.
Yeah.
Tebogo, thank you. It's been a pleasure talking to you, to seeing you. I wish you every success. I think all of your businesses are successful. Soon we'll hear about mineral beneficiation, and you'll continue to grow. Don't forget, if you want to buy another property, come and talk to us, although this time pay a proper price.
Oh, thank you, Mark. Thank you very much for your invitation to your show.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
It's been a great pleasure.
Thank you. If you would like to be mentored by Tebogo, please register on our website. It could change your life. We'll see you again next week.